The Science of Reading by Savannah Farmer. During this presentation, we will be discussing the science of reading, the theoretical models that are listed under science of reading, phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary. We will also be talking about code emphasis versus meaning emphasis, and we will be talking about orthographic mapping. What is the science of reading? The science of reading refers to research that has been conducted on how students or children learn to read. The scientific research is based on evidence rather than observation and experience like it has been in the past. For over 20 years, the science of reading research has been looking for what works for all students. Fluency, composition, vocabulary, phonics, and phonological awareness play a very important role in the science of reading. There are four main theories of how reading occurs. The first model I'm going to discuss is the simple view of reading. The simple view of reading is just as it sounds. It's simple. According to Turner and Gall, the psychologists who created the theory in 1986, reading occurs when two major components are achieved. They created a formula for this theory. The formula they created is D times LC equals RC, which stands for decoding times language comprehension equals reading comprehension. The two psychologists believe that reading skills could not occur without students being taught how to produce strong decoding and language skills. Next, we are going to discuss Scarborough's reading rope. Created by Dr. Hollis Scarborough, the reading rope demonstrates how the different factors all work together to create a skilled reader. The two major components are word recognition. Within word recognition, there is phonological awareness, decoding, and sight recognition. The next component is language comprehension, which includes background knowledge, vocabulary, language structures, verbal reasoning, and literacy knowledge. Once these two major components, language comprehension and word recognition, work together, they are woven into making a skilled reader. The next theoretical model we are going to discuss is the four-part mental processor. In this process for reading to occur, only all four parts must do their job and connect with one another. For the four-part mental processor, the first major region is the phonological processor, which is located at the back part of the frontal lobe. It is responsible for speech sound awareness. It perceives, remembers, interprets, and produces the speech sound system of our own language. It holds the sounds of words in memory long enough to write them down. The next major region is orthographic processor, which is responsible for letter and letter pattern recognition and also stores printed word images. It is located at the lower back of the occipital part of the brain. It communicates with the angular gyrus to support word recognition. It receives visual input from printed words, and it stores info about the print that is needed for word recognition and spelling. The next major region of the four-part mental processor is the meanings processor, or as some call it, the semantic processor. Located in the temporal area, the meanings processor communicates between the phonological and orthographic processor. It interprets the meaning of words in and out of context. It stores unknown words, organizes mental dictionary, or otherwise known as lexicon, and then constructs meanings of new words. Last but not least, the context processor. which is also located in the temporal area. Its job is to interact and provide support to the meanings processor. It interprets the right meaning due to some words having multiple meanings of a word and how that word is used. Phonics also always takes place in between the phonological and orthographic processor. The last theoretical model we will discuss is Airy's phases of word level reading. There are 4 major phases in which Airy believes students go through at their own rate when beginning to read. The pre-alphabetic stage recognizes words only by visual features because there is no alphabetic knowledge or letter sound connection. Children use non-alphabetic visual cues or features of words to remember how to read them. Partial alphabetic phase the students in this phase can read and recognize some letters and use these letters or knowledge of these letters to attempt pronunciation, and they particularly pay attention to the first and final letters, and that's very important for them. Their words are stored in the memory to be activated in the next encounter. The next phase is the full alphabetic phase. Students in this phase can map graphemes to phonemes of sight words and can read new words by blending the generated pronunciations. They can also recognize and decode irregular words. And last but not least is the consolidated alphabetic phase. During this phase, students are able to read full words because the recurring letter patterns have now become consolidated. And it also reduces memory load. Next, we will talk about the major components of reading. This is where we'll get into talking about phonological awareness, fluency, phonics, and vocabulary. First up is phonological awareness. Phonological awareness is the sound of spoken words and the ability to notice the sound structure of those spoken words. You can isolate, identify, and manipulate language with phonological skills. It includes blending and segmentation. But why is it so important? Phonological awareness is important because you have to have phonological instructions in order to produce a skilled reader and to have any type of sight word learning. Early instruction in phonological awareness can ultimately remediate or prevent reading difficulties. Phonics. Phonics focuses on the relationship between letters and sounds. Orthographic mapping, which we will talk later about in slides 13, plays an important role in phonics. Phonics teaches graphemes, syllables, and morphemes. And phonic decoding is much more effective than just guessing words. During this stage, students can sound out words and the reason why the word is so important. The area of pronunciation and spelling in our brains activate before other parts of the brain do. So that's why it's so important for students to learn phonics, because that part of the brain activates before other parts of the brain does. Fluency. Fluency is the ability to read quickly, accurately, and with prosody. And with prosody, that is just like the term for expression. This is determined by the amount of sight words you have stored. Once a student is fluent, they can then focus their attention on reading comprehension. And then they can also focus on higher level text. The more fluent they become, the higher level text they are able to read. It also bridges the gap between decoding words and understanding what has been read. Vocabulary. Vocabulary is the meaning of words, but not only the meaning of words, but the meaning of how that certain word is being used within a text and how it fits into the world. Vocabulary skills is closely related to comprehension. And it's found that it can be related or linked to a child's economical background. And I can only suspect that that's because depending on where a child was raised or come from, they may not hear certain words. Their parents may not have attended school or anything like that. And so their parents may not have a great vocabulary, which then in turn, the children doesn't have a great vocabulary. It is the glue that holds stories, ideas, and content together, and it is also a very important part of comprehension. All four of those factors that we just discussed lead to comprehension of text. Now we will discuss code emphasis versus meaning emphasis. Code emphasis is when it requires the student to learn a set of letters and sounds or words by code. The code can be set by a teacher or a lesson, but it's always in a controlled setting. The reason why a lot of people like code emphasis is because it's kind of like it has a great deal to with phonemic awareness, whereas in meaning emphasis focuses on the meaning itself and really is like the child figures out how to read by themselves or by the meanings of words and not trying to sound the word out for himself. So code emphasis has really had a lot of successful or more achievements than meaning emphasis has. And orthographic mapping. So we discussed orthographic mapping earlier, but orthographic mapping is connecting the use of languages to sounds that they already know, which then connects to letters in a word. It is the mental process that stores words for immediate retrieval. And that's like unfamiliar words. These are like sight words. Basically, what you're doing is you're storing these words that you're figuring them out, storing them in your mind, and then it's like a repetitive thing. You have to have those stored in your mind, and then you can retrieve them. That's basically what we teach in the classroom as sight words. The conclusion, the science of reading, with all of the years it's had, it's shown great success, especially with all the theoretical models and with phonics and phonological awareness and fluency and vocabulary and comprehension being at the core of the science of reading. Effective reading cannot occur without all those components. And then once, like I said earlier, all those components come together, then the comprehension of text will come in. Students must have those 5 major components in order to be an effective reader at all. Reading is a major, I tell my kids in class all the time, you cannot do anything without reading. If you can't do math without reading, because what if you can't read the directions and the directions say to do something specific? So I always stress the importance of reading, and in order to read, students must possess those 5 major components, and those theoretical models are great advice for trying to teach children how to read. Thank you.